Hello everybody, welcome to the very first episode of the SquareZero Podcast. My name is Matt, and today for the first time I'm joined by the lovely Owen, and we're here to bring you video games. Eventually.
It's good to be here with you, Matt, for this very first episode of the SquareZero Podcast.
Owen, why don't you tell us a little bit about what the SquareZero Podcast is? Why shouldn't I just stop listening right now? Sell it to me.
I'm glad you asked, Matt, because the SquareZero Podcast is all about us two making video games.
Owen, how much experience do we have making video games currently?
None at all.
So you could say that we're starting from SquareZero.
Oh, that I see.
That's the joke. That's why we called it that.
Except most people would say Square One and not SquareZero. But
except that's not a very good, name, because if you just search Square One, there's already a Square One podcast, and
yes,
it's just It's a whole messy situation. But
so are we
clever.
one step back?
We're one
from
step behind
Square
those
One?
people.
Yeah.
That's the idea. We're even worse. The idea is going to be, if we can manage to make something, anyone can, because we're really dumb and have no experience.
I wouldn't go so far as to say we have no experience, though.
See, that's why it doesn't make much sense, because it's called
like,
SquareZero, and you have, I guess, a little bit of experience.
I have more experience
than you.
Than you do. Not really, though, because you've done spray art before.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves, Owen.
Yeah, okay, sorry. Yeah. Let's not.
But I guess we should preface in that I'm going to be handling more of the art side, and Owen's going to be doing more of the code side.
Yes.
Because he's a fucking nerd. But so this episode's going to be a little bit different than what we're doing. So the idea of the podcast is going to be every week, and we're going to be talking about, what we've done, what we've learned, progress we've made, and along the way, when we eventually make things like models for me, or if Owen does something on his end. I don't even know what Owen does, to be honest. When Owen does stuff on his end,
I just pretend that,
he just
I
taps
put
on the
things
keyboard.
together, yeah,
Mm-hmm. He should be like, oh, Matt, I did, you're going to use a bunch of, nerdy terminology. I made a super high Drex code string, and I'm going to be like, wow. And I'm not going to know if, he's just making
I conditioned the trend, and...
you sure did. So this episode's going to be different because we're just laying out the groundwork in that we're going to discuss what experience we have, and then the episodes in the future are going to actually say about what we're doing. So at least for me, so the area I want to get into is doing the art for a video game, but it's mostly going to be 3D. I'd like to start with low poly stuff to begin with. My experience thus far is about 3-4 years ago. I got interested in learning this stuff. I downloaded Blender. I opened Blender. I looked at the UI and I uninstalled Blender, demotivated by looking at it. Because I've re-downloaded it, so to prepare myself mentally, hey, I can see this on my desktop now. It's gonna be a thing, but it looks nicer. I do actually. My story was a lie, because back then, I don't know if you can still do it. I'll have to get back to you next week to find out, but there was a little bit on the menu, like a drop-down bit, and you could change the cube, the grey cube that it starts out with. You could turn it into a monkey.
Wow.
So I made a monkey, and I guess I pretended that I did it myself.
Oh, I see.
No, it's a preset monkey.
Right. Of all the things you want preset on Blender, I don't particularly know why they give you a monkey.
We'll just use the monkey, and we'll make an Ape Escape remake.
That'll be our main character.
So you play as grey textureless cube, and you're capturing monkeys from Blender. But yeah, that's my experience, at least in Blender. I'm going to get a little bit more into more specific, art related things later, but I'll hand it over to you so you can just be like, well, Matt, that's pathetic compared to what I know. I can practically make a video game right now.
Well, you joke, but that was actually what prompted me to suggest we do this, because I remember thinking
No one's going to replace me.
Well, I couldn't make a video. I couldn't do like 3D modeling and art and things like that. But
just make shitty pixel art.
I couldn't even do
like developer
that.
graphics. That's what Notch did.
I have absolutely no artistic like or sense of like what looks good.
Okay.
So like I genuinely don't. I mean, like neither does Notch really. If Minecraft is anything to go by.
Wow.
But, throwing shade at other indie devs.
I mean, at least we're recording this during the time where no one likes Notch. If you said that like a few years ago, then you would have got crucified. But now everyone's just like, yeah, it's true.
That's true, yeah. But yeah, I was at work and I do web development as a full-time job, and I realized I know like really basic coding practices and really basic like I know what a variable is, I know what functions are, I know what classes are and objects and shit. And all of this is going right over Matt's head. He's just like, what?
Yeah, I'm like,
is he talking
yeah,
about?
I know what a class is.
But I know
They're what I skipped in college.
We'll get onto that later.
No.
But yeah, I know like what all of those things are from like a programming point of view, and I took computing in A level like years ago now, so I know really basic like software development.
I know everything, is what I just heard.
Like I know everything to where, like I know where to start. Like
I'm a master.
I think that's the thing that like that's what prompted
I've got a video game right now. In the time we've been recording this podcast, I've made a video game. That's what you said.
I could in theory, and I did experiment with this idea a while ago, making like a really fucking basic browser game.
Mm-hmm.
Like just with like some kind of basic gameplay elements really is the only thing I can think of. Like, and like maybe a bit of like almost online features as well. Like I don't know, like that's about as much as I could do. That I mean like something like just fucking text based shit basically. And I was going to do that until we had this conversation where we said actually we should just fucking make a proper video game together instead.
Well, I mean, I think at least going into next week, my first step, which I think we can maybe get into a bit more towards the end, like what would our homework. But mine is probably going to veer more towards doing anything in Blender. Like the simplest, shittiest model ever.
Yeah.
But yours could actually be making something, anything.
That kind
really.
of functions.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
Something that kind of functions as a video game. Like whether it's text-based or whatever.
I mean, you're probably going to be...
stock images of bread.
You're probably going to get like an advantage over me because I'm probably going to spend quite a bit of this week playing a particular video game that comes out next week. I'm, of course, talking about Knack 2.
Ooh, talk about inspiration. We should have recorded this podcast next week. So it's like, so what made you finally want to dip your toes into making video games? And it'll be like, Knack 2 came out and I was fucking blown away. So generally, given like, all right, so what we've both done in the past is, because we're both lazy shits, we've both been interested in making games for a long time. Personally, for myself, as a kid, it was like making games was always going to be something that I wanted to do. And I was always like artistically inclined as a child. So, making games was always something I was pretty interested in. So as a person like that, I've looked into many aspects that go into game creation, but I've not actually done any of them. So I actually know a fair bit, not like on a technical level, but more like the general idea of like what I would need to be doing. So with that question in mind, I probably know my answer, but for you, what are the parts that you think are going to be the most difficult, and what are the parts you think are going to be like piss easy?
Oh God. Okay. So
because like you did say
one.
you looked into like Unity stuff a little bit, right?
Yeah. So that conversation I kind of had with myself about where I could make a video game prompted me to go and look up like the really basic tutorials on Unity, and I basically knew everything already about like the very basics. The only thing I didn't know was the syntax, which I could pick up because it's not too different from languages I've done before. But the most difficult thing, like that's easy. Like having known all that already, that should be
that's
easy.
The easy bit.
Yeah. But the hard bit, like I feel like I don't really know. I feel like that's part of.
That's the worrying bit. Like, you don't know anything.
No. I mean, I don't really know what's gonna be hard because I don't know enough about it yet.
Okay, so we're not exactly in the same boat on that regard.
No, because I don't really know enough about like my angle of like the coding aspect. I mean, you talk about like, oh yeah, you've wanted to make games since you were a kid. I didn't really have that. Wanting to make games was a much more recent thing. It was like it started out with like I used to make like I made things in the expansion pack for Spore. These fucking like it was this dumb thing where like you could basically put together levels, and I used to just like put together levels and like release them and say here's like a big story and shit. Like people used to do that with like Little Big Planet and whatever.
Yeah, exactly. I was actually gonna say a lot of people get started in game design and stuff from things like Little Big Planet and more recently Mario Maker.
Yeah, that too.
A lot of people find like the inspiration for doing their own stuff through having, really simple and accessible tools to, give them the inspiration to want to learn.
Yeah, definitely.
To do things further.
And then like after that, I dabbled with Game Maker for a bit, but Game Maker wasn't like, it never really appealed to me. And then I also used RPG Maker, which like was kind of it's clearly a step down from Game Maker, but it was a step up from Spore, because
anything like, really is a step up from Spore.
Because RPG Maker was like it allowed me to focus on the bits of game design that I like, and that's like largely the theory of it all. Because in RPG Maker, like all of the difficult stuff is already done for you, or like some modder has, or like someone has already made a plugin that does that for you. All you have to do is think about like the weapons and the levels and the enemies and the attacks and things like that.
And the great story I'm sure you constructed.
Yeah. Things like that. But really, that's what I like most about making a video game, is like that aspect of it. I like the idea of
designing it.
Yeah, the design has always been a lot more interesting to me than the actual development of it, clearly, because I'm a lazy piece of shit.
Well, I mean, that's the, rewarding part of it.
Oh, yeah, definitely, yeah.
Like, all of the blood, sweat, and tears you put into actually making it and seeing, the end product and be like, holy shit, it's something I can actually play.
Yeah. But also, at the same time, I'm thinking, like, we're going to get into this, and there's not going to be much scope for me to do designs, because we're going to do some, like, at least for a long time, we're going to be making really basic games.
Yeah, of course.
And so, like, the bit I love about it isn't really going to be there.
Well, I mean, in smaller projects, it also gives you the thing of, like, you can just do something that's, obviously once we get the basics of basics down and we're like, all right, we know kind of how to make, I don't know, a fucking Space Invaders clone. Or whatever. Once we finally get, our feet settled in generally what it takes, nothing's stopping us from experimenting. Even if it goes horribly wrong.
Yeah,
and it
absolutely.
doesn't work, and it's the worst game we've ever played, and it was terrible, and we never should have even thought of it. And if that happened, that's still, like, in a way, it's expressing a similar level of, like, creativity in the design aspect of, like, here's an idea, and I'm gonna make that idea, even if it's pretty basic.
Yeah.
Did you have anything else to add to your bit, or should I go delve into mine?
By all means, go down your rabbit hole.
All right, so generally, I know there are three main things in like the art department for 3D stuff that I need to do. The first one is modeling. So you need to model the actual thing itself. Then texturing it, which, like I said, if I wanted to do low poly stuff, it's mainly going to be pixel art and that sort of thing. And then there's like rigging and animation, which is the last bit.
Yeah, and animation will kind of blend into my bit as well. So I might have to learn a little bit about that too.
I've put these in like an order. I know how easy these are going to be for me already.
Yeah.
Textures are absolutely going to be the easiest thing, because since I was in primary school making Sonic the Hedgehog sprite edits, I've done pixel art for years, and it's something that I can still kind of do today. Because I just think it's fun.
Yeah, like I knew you when you did pixel art, so like it's definitely.
Yeah, so when I met Owen, recently. Like what?
No.
4 or 5, something like that. Yeah, so I did pixel art then, and I've done pixel art for people before. So, that's actually something I'm fairly familiar with. The next easiest thing, I think, which isn't to say it's easy, but I think it's the, next step, is the actual modeling part.
Yeah.
Because, especially working in low poly...
I could understand that.
It's basically just simple shapes put together with the knowledge... that's required to make it look like what it's meant to, with like constraints to how many faces you're using. So that'll be obviously a learning process. But once I've done it, I think I'll work it out. The absolute hardest thing in the world is going to be the animation.
Yeah, no doubt.
Because growing up, I used to have a really like a big fondness for 2D animation. Like pencil animation, really traditional, squashy, stretchy Disney kind of shit. And I really admired it. And for like a long time when I was a kid, I was like, oh yeah, that's what I want to do when I grow up. Because I was a fucking idiot and didn't understand how hard it was and how nobody does it anymore either. And there's a reason for it. Because it's expensive and really difficult.
Time consuming. And
yeah. But there's a book that I bought called The Animator Survival Kit.
I think I'm aware of that
book. It's like the most popular book on animation there is. It's written by the guy that leaded the animation for Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Like, it teaches you a lot of aspects of animation. And I read that whole thing front to back twice. And it's a really thick book. So I actually know a fair bit about animation itself. But that's why... I know it's going to be so fucking hard.
Yeah, I could understand that. I remember I had friends who did like animation courses at university and stuff. And I would ask them like little bits about animation and I'd be like, I don't understand a word you just said.
They just burst into tears.
And yeah, that too.
Because I always had this when I was a bit younger, and I'd look at like indie games or like Kickstarter games for... like, oh, I'm going to make like a game that's like a 3D platformer or something on Kickstarter. And you'd look at it and you'd go, this just doesn't look right. Something about it doesn't look right. Yeah. Or like how the character moves, how when they run, it looks like they're gliding
it's
or
really
something.
Stiff and shit like that.
Or stiff. And it's like, I absolutely know for a fact that'll be how I will do it to begin with. Because
definitely.
At least imagining how to animate at least a walk cycle, one of the most simple things that you'll have to do for a video game.
Yeah, it's not necessarily simple, but like really common.
Common. Yeah, that's what I meant. But it's like actually really complex in itself. In how a walk looks, and how each limb moves in correspondence to each other, but then also in how you get it to look good as well. So, things like how you represent weight getting shifted and things like that. So, say you've got like, you're designing a boss character and he's really big, you need to, it's about how you animate him. Like, so say how you animate him walking and how you animate like the main character walking, not the same at all.
Yeah.
And how you need to, you need to animate, I guess, the bigger guys if he's like shifting his weight as he walks. And games that do that successfully are amazing, and they look gorgeous. And because I guess I know about a little bit of stuff like that, it's always been something that I have appreciated. Like, I remember after learning this stuff, I went back and played the original Jak and Daxter on the PlayStation 2. And the squashing and stretching they use in the game to, convey movement and stuff, which is, typically something I guess is done in 2D, but it's 3D. It was always something that like really fascinated me. But then when I got to the point of like, hey, I'd like to do something like that, it's just like, oh my God, that's so hard.
Yeah.
Like knowing what to do. Like, all right, so you have a set number of frames to do something in. And then it's just like, but what do I do where and when and how do I do it? And how does that convey the movement when it's in full motion? And oh God, I'm panicking, Owen. I'm already panicking. But to begin with, the main things I want to focus on is just the modeling and the texturing, mainly. Just because that'll be the easy bit,
No, that's fine.
Because I don't want to lay too much on myself where I'm like, this is too hard, I quit.
I mean, we could make a very basic video game where like,
of course, like the thing is like if say a Space Invaders clone, I don't need to animate anything.
No.
Because the ships are static. So it's texture's easiest, modeling, and then animation. And I think the biggest reason I haven't gotten into this earlier, because I have mentioned wanting to do games since I was quite little. I remember being really small and doing like, with fucking like felt tips and shit in like a notebook. I'm like, this is my design for Sonic Adventure 3. Maybe I'll pitch it to Sega one day and they'll make it. But it was just really dumb stuff like that, as a kid and like growing up, I guess like the same idea of, that'd always be something that, would be cool to do. And I've always had like my roots, I guess, creatively doing art and such. Did have a DeviantArt account when I was a teenager.
Who didn't? Am I right?
Like all the cool kids. But my main problem, why I never got into animation or any of this earlier, is I hate not being good at things so much. With the animation thing, I'd like try and do it, and I'm like, I can't do this. It's too hard. I'm just going to do this other thing I'm already great at. Because rather than being smart, like a lot of kids were back then, and using DeviantArt and the massive amounts of resources you have online to learn how to do things, something I've kept throughout my life is this almost like egocentric streak where I was like, I am the best at art and the best at everything. Instead of looking up tutorials, I made them.
What?
I made tutorials on DeviantArt about like art and shit, and they were terrible and full of misinformation and lies. And I'd be like, hey, this is how you like do proportions, like body proportions. Not true at all. None of it.
Yeah.
But it's like, just because I had this like thing that was like, well, I can't look up what someone else is doing because then I didn't do it. But also, so, because like learning things from scratch is hard, I guess. So child me was just like, I'm going to stick to doing Sonic sprite animations because that's easy.
We've been playing video games since we were like really young. And like that's going to influence the way that we treat this whole process. So I want to quickly get an idea from you, Matt. What sort of video games did you play throughout your whole life, really? I
don't like that I have to go first because mine's the worst.
Yeah, of course it is.
I think. Okay, so as a child, the first console I ever got was a Mega Drive that my mum got me from a car boot sale.
Nice.
When I was like 5,
nice.
I think.
There's nothing wrong with that.
5. Very young, and I played Sonic the Hedgehog. Sonic the Hedgehog 2 was my first game that I ever played, and then I kept playing it. And then I kept playing it.
Is it your favourite game of all time by any chance?
And then I didn't play anything else. It is... If you asked me like 5 years ago, it would have been, but now I'm not an idiot. So Sonic the Hedgehog is not my favourite game ever.
Thank Christ.
You know my favourite game.
I actually don't.
Yeah, you do.
I can't remember.
It's the game I've told you to play for
Transistor.
years. Oh, and it was gonna be a surprise. Yeah, it's Transistor.
Sorry.
Transistor's my favorite game ever. But so I played Sonic games when I was a young'un, and then after that it was like PS1 games, I suppose. I got a PS1, and it was games like, Spyro, Crash, the stuff everyone played when they were a kid.
Yeah.
And then after that, I played like Call of Duty and Halo a lot when I was a teenager, especially Call of Duty. I used to be like really, really into it. It was pretty bad. And then after that, or I suppose during that, it was Guitar Hero.
See, Matt, what you don't realize is you're joking about Guitar Hero, but that's what got you into rhythm games.
It is. And that's the next thing, I suppose. So, after that, during all of this, I played, a lot of other stuff, of course,
But dominated.
I'm skipping out other games I played. Yeah, absolutely. So I'm skipping out other games I played, on the GameCube and on the PlayStation 2 and other games on the Xbox and stuff like that. But, yeah, these are the main games that, just dominated my childhood. So the games that I sunk so much time into that really shaped how I played and thought about video games. So yeah, I played Guitar Hero while that fad was around. I played the Wii version like nobody did. I had a circle of friends in school and we compare high scores and stuff.
God, you're such a nerd.
Yeah, so and then after that, I guess it wasn't anything specifically until I guess 2-3 years ago now, maybe, where I got into rhythm games again, but really hard.
Proper rhythm games, basically.
Proper rhythm games. Yeah. Well, I actually started with Stepmania, which is arguably not a real rhythm game, but it then went on to I'm just going to play shitloads of rhythm games, and now rhythm games are something that I really enjoy. So, from all of this, so what I'll do, I'll tell you my favorite game, which I've already said, and then I'll say the games, the main.
How about your most influential game?
Yeah, and then I'll talk about my most influential game. So Transistor's my favorite game ever, released in 2014. Supergiant Games blew me the fuck away.
I've still not played Bastion or Transistor or Pyre. And you keep telling me that Transistor... Did I say Transition?
No, you said Transistor.
Okay, I thought I said Transition. I've not played Bastion, Transition, or Pyre, and I own them all.
Then you said Transition.
What, just then?
Just then.
Oh my god. I've not played Bastion,
I get it. You're not playing
Transistor, or Pyre, but you keep telling me that Transistor and Pyre are really good games.
Bastion's also a good game. It's just not as good. I think part of the reason, at least why I thought Transistor was so good, is because of how it improves on the formula that Bastion laid out. So I would suggest playing Bastion first, but it is a bit of a time sink.
I was going to say,
they're only 5-6 hours long.
Oh, is it
they're
really?
Not massive. Yeah, they're all pretty short games. Pyre's the longest. That's at 10-12.
And most of that's reading.
Yeah, it's more like a visual novel. Anyway, so my main influential types of games, Sonic the Hedgehog. Not even a genre, just Sonic. Because still, to this day, Sonic Mania, oh god, I was happiest boy in the world.
Sonic Mania is really good.
Oh, so good. Second, not Call of Duty, even though I said it was a long time. It would be 3D platformers.
Yeah.
Because the PS1 era that I talked about and the PS2 games and such, were the ones that I guess they're the kind of games I'd be really interested in making. And they're the ones that I can go back and play and it's really nice and whimsical, and I think they're really interesting, and there's a lot of interesting things you could do with them that aren't really explored at all, really. And third, rhythm games, because I play a shitload of them, and I'm pretty good at them.
Yeah, I don't think we're ever going to make a rhythm game somehow.
Why not? We could make a game that had rhythm elements.
We could. I have no rhythm though.
Well, I do. Because I can playtest it. So, Owen, what about you? What are your childhood video games?
My gaming history starts kind of similar to yours, actually.
Sonic the Hedgehog.
Oh yeah, only not. Was the Mega Drive 16-bit? Yeah.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah. So.
Oh God, you had the Master System, didn't you?
Yes. So my gaming history starts exactly like yours, only 8-bit instead of 16-bit.
Sonic 2 on the Master System.
Yes.
The shit one.
So it wasn't my Master System. It wasn't like a car boot sale like yours. It was my dad's. From when he was in his 20s, he owned a Sega Master System and played a shitload of Sonic and Alex Kidd, and we had like some golf game or some shit for, I don't even fucking remember what else we had.
Yeah, all the games were on, redone on the Mega Drive, but better.
Yeah, probably. And so I played like Sonic on the Master System for like about a year or so until I got a PlayStation 1. And then it was Spyro Year of the Dragon was the first game I got, because I got the PlayStation 1 and my mum was like, okay, you can get one game for it. And I remember my cousin playing one of the other Spyro games on his PlayStation, so I was like, I want that.
So you got the worst Spyro game?
Yes, I did. But at the time it was amazing,
the original.
Because like I've been playing Sonic for like a year or whatever. I was like, why is it all 3D and it's so good? And
whoa, there's a monkey with a gun.
Well, luckily, as a child, I never got that far.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I wasn't very good. And then I got like Spyro 2 and 1 after that, in that order. And those were much better games. But Spyro 2 was like my favourite for a very long time. Even to the point of like when I got a PS2, like I still basically just played Spyro 2 a lot for goddamn years. Like I did have plenty of games, but I had shit like the Harry Potter games, which like that sounds really bad because like it's a licensed game, but in retrospect they have a really large like following. There are so many people online where if you talk to them about like the PS1 and PS2 Harry Potter games, they're like, oh my god, they're amazing, and they really were. They weren't like being a licensed game didn't really have anything to do with it. They were basically just RPGs. And shit like the Spider-Man game as well.
I had one of the PS1 Harry Potter games, and it wasn't very good.
Oh, I would say like the PS2 ones were better.
Alright.
But the PS1 games are still like quite well like remembered by people. Like I've not played any of them in years, so like for all I know they might be shit. But like the Spider-Man one as well for the like Spider-Man 2 based on the movie is another one that like in retrospect people seem to love online. But I didn't play like any of the actual PS2 games that people play, like any of the games you'd actually get a PS2
you played
for.
Ratchet and Clank, right?
Not for like I had Ratchet and Clank 3, but I didn't have 1 or 2. And 3's
what is
the
it
worst.
With you getting the third game first?
I know. And what is it with me getting like the worst game in the series first as well? But I didn't play like
gonna be offending some people with that one.
Ratchet and Clank 3 is the worst.
A lot of people think it's the best.
Of the first 3, Ratchet and Clank 3 is the worst. But like I don't know if that's just because I played it a lot more than the other ones because I didn't own the other ones. But like that was how I always felt, was that it always like after I'd play the other ones around friends' houses, and I thought they were so much better than the one I had, which might have just been like a child who like gets his like wants the thing that the other child has got.
Grass is always greener.
Yeah. But I didn't play things like Shadow of the Colossus.
Yeah, I didn't play that either.
Like,
I still haven't.
Or like friends who've been like, how did you never play Metal Gear when you were because like they weren't kids games and I was a kid when I had the PS2.
Like that's the thing. like with Metal Gear,
and like Silent Hill and things like that,
and like Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah,
was
yeah,
a big
like
one.
the like
that a lot
the
of my
PS2
friends were like, "Yeah, I played the
GTAs.
PS2 Grand Theft Auto games when I was a kid," and it's like I didn't because my parents didn't let me fucking play them because I was like 10.
Yeah, exactly. So like I just...
and they were good parents.
So I didn't play any of those like classic games. I've played them in retrospect.
Yeah.
But I didn't play them at the time.
I mean, I think I've played. For me, it varies. Like, so I have played the some of the earlier Grand Theft Auto games. I've still never played Shadow of the Colossus, and I've never played Metal Gear either.
Yeah, I've played bits of Metal Gear, but I've not gone through like a whole Metal Gear yet, which is really like it's almost worse. I think that I started them and never finished them.
You're like, because they're shit.
No, they're not. They're actually really good. But like, they're so much better than I thought they would ever be as well. Because like, I remember like a couple years ago, I remember calling like a game. I remember describing it as next gen because it felt like, oh my god, there's so much like attention to detail.
Mm-hmm.
But like Metal Gear had that back in like the early 2000s, and I never even realized. Like,
yeah,
and like even fucking like the PS1 games had, or the PS1 game had that.
You hear about that with Shadow of the Colossus too, actually.
Yeah, it is one of those things, and like I probably would like
the fucking spectacle of that game on the system it was on is insane too.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like I probably would like again Shadow of the Colossus. I never completed it, but
I never even played it.
I really should though because I played The Last Guardian and actually really fucking liked it.
It's got the dog rat.
It's a dog, cat, chicken.
It's a rat.
It's not a rat.
Looks more like a rat than a dog.
No, it's like a dog, cat, chicken.
It's like a rat.
Unbelievable. Anyway,
it's just a rat.
Like I liked The Last Guardian, and like a lot of people don't like it, so I could imagine that I like Shadow of the Colossus and Ico and all that, but I've not played any of them all the way through.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, so it wasn't until I got a Xbox 360 that I stopped playing like Spyro, because like I still played Spyro like the PS1 games on the PS2, and then when like the Legend trilogy came out, I played a shitload of that. Really fucking shit. But then it wasn't until I got a 360 when I went to secondary school and like everyone was playing Halo basically, so I was like, okay, I'll buy myself a 360 and play Halo, and like Halo's good. Halo 3 is a damn good game.
Wow, and with the controversial opinions.
I know, right? I've got such normie opinions on video games.
Yeah.
So I played a lot of Halo 3 and ODST and Reach, and they were like amazing. It is basically what I thought. Especially ODST and Reach. They're probably some of my favourite stories from video games ever. To this day.
George.
Oh, rest in peace, George.
It was my favourite. He died like, first.
We played Reach 4-player co-op like on the first weekend after it came out. Not. I say we as if I'm talking to the audience about me and Matt. No, I mean,
I was going to say I never fucking played.
I mean, me and my friends, we all played it 4-player co-op for the weekend it came out. And God, it's so fun doing that. Like we did that whenever a new Halo game came out, and we kind of did it with 5 recently, but we all gave up halfway through because 5's campaign is shit. But we played through that, and it was damn good, that whole game. So like I feel like that's what like those two games are really what got me interested in like video game stories, and that is leading into like
the best game of all time, Civilization 5.
No. I mean, like that is leading.
Bring up Civilization 5.
I kind of. I might. Like that is leading me into like one of my big like influences for video games is like story-driven stuff. I'm a really big sucker for a good story.
And yet you didn't play Transistor.
I know, and I need to play it. Like that's exactly why, because like I like as much as I love like games that incorporate gameplay into the story as well. Like a good story is usually good enough for me. So yeah, that's where it really started, and then I like from then on I just started playing a lot more like kind of average stuff until now. Until I get to about like now where I love strategy games. So like I love Civ and I love XCOM and
So,
what?
You know how you said we're never going to make a rhythm game?
Yeah.
Oh, we're never going to make a strategy
Yeah,
game.
okay, that's fine.
This is when, in 50 episodes, we look back and we're like, holy shit, I never thought we'd make a rhythm strategy game.
We combined both the ideas that we never said we'd
That's
do.
kind of like what Crypt of the Necrodancer is, though.
It kind of is, yeah. And they're making a proper strategy game now, aren't they? The developers
steal
of that.
idea.
Yeah.
Why aren't they making a real rhythm game instead?
Of the two ideas they merged together, why couldn't they make the real version of the one I wanted? Says
Yeah,
Matt.
exactly. Well, maybe that'll be their third game.
Yeah, maybe.
It'll just be DDR again.
Yeah. But I love Civ, and I love XCOM, and Darkest Dungeon is another one that I really like that came out much more recently. Where it's kind of like a strategy RPG.
Mm-hmm.
So it's I quite like RPGs. I'd actually go through a phase of liking RPGs, and that phase kind of ended with Skyrim after I'd played like 1 million hours of that, and then realised, wow, that was such a shit game.
Yeah,
like it's not that good actually. Like, but I still played like fucking all of it. So
I played a lot of Oblivion and not nearly as much Skyrim.
See, I feel like the thing about the Elder Scrolls games is that like the first one you play, you kind of like you like it at first, and then most people in retrospect think actually that wasn't that good, and then come to the next one or come to another one and think actually this is like just boring.
Yeah, well, I had Oblivion, I'd say, still had its good points. Still had shit. Like the combat's always been arse.
Yeah, like I've played Oblivion. I played Oblivion after I played Skyrim, and I did not like it. Like it wasn't any better than Skyrim for me, really. I could argue that maybe like the story was slightly better, but like I don't really give a shit. Like as bad as that sounds in an RPG, I don't really give a shit about the story.
Owen just talked about how stories were one of the biggest things.
No, but I mean I don't give a shit about like
into video games.
I
don't care about the story.
I mean I don't give a shit about that story.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
Well, to be honest, with Oblivion, the main story kind of sucks.
Oh, okay,
the most
cool.
interesting thing is the guilds. The guilds in Oblivion were really good.
Okay.
Like the Thieves Guild and the Dark Brotherhood.
I mean, they were really shit in Skyrim, so...
Yeah, no, exactly. That's why I didn't like it.
Oh, okay.
Because they were really good in Oblivion.
Anyway, so for my favourite video game of all time, and my biggest influences, I've not even mentioned this video game in this conversation. My favourite video game of all time is Bloodborne. I fucking love Bloodborne. It's such a good game. I know you don't...
that's not what I was expecting.
You don't like Dark Souls. You played through the first one and you were like, oh my god, I can't do this.
Yeah, it's just kind of boring.
Yeah, the thing is, I imagine you would like Bloodborne because it's so much faster. It's so much like... There's so much less about like walking around with a shield and defending yourself, and so much more about like moving. And,
well, I do remember a year or so ago when you streamed it that one time.
Yeah.
I remember watching it, and it definitely did look a lot more interesting than what Dark Souls ended up being.
It's a hell of a lot more interesting than Dark Souls. But my biggest influences are kind of like yours. 3D platformers.
Sonic.
Well, no, Spyro.
Rhythm games.
3D platformers.
Let's make a Sonic rhythm game.
Like 3D platformers. Something.
You know why haven't they done that? Sonic's got such good music.
Oh my god, Matt.
Mario gets the rhythm game. Sonic doesn't.
Matt, you're interrupting my moment of glory to talk about Sonic the goddamn Hedgehog. No, 3D platformers are like most things story driven and strategy games. Those are probably my 3 biggest influences. Influences? Yeah, influences.
I like how 3D platformers and good stories almost have like nothing to do with each other as well.
Yeah.
Except Mario 64, the pinnacle of storytelling.
I would really like to make a 3D platformer that had a good story, but like, how? How can you?
Well, I'd argue the first Ratchet and Clank has a good story.
It does, but like,
not amazing.
It's like,
but
it's
good.
not really a platformer as well. Like, let's be real.
I guess.
Like, it's more a third-person shoot, but like, there's a lot more emphasis on the third-person shooting than there is the
platforming.
Yeah, the actual platforming. Yeah.
Some of the planets are pretty platform intensive.
Yeah, but it's not.
And there are definitely bits like the fucking obstacle course or whatever.
Yeah, but it's not like it's not like a traditional.
Yeah, no. But then I think whatever we'd end up doing isn't going to be a traditional anything, right?
No, I guess
Let's
not.
make Ratchet and Clank going.
No, I feel like okay. So we make a 3D platformer with a good story then, and that's what we aim for. Because I know you didn't mention it, but I know that you don't dislike a story in like story-driven games.
I hate stories.
Shut the fuck up. You know what I mean?
Trying to make me feel things. All right, the thing with stories is I'm really, really picky about them.
Oh yeah, no, I completely understand.
Because I hate, because I've like consumed so much media in my time. I hate like overusing certain tropes and like I hate killing off characters for shock value. I hate, there are a lot of different storytelling techniques that I just despise. And like, so I feel like making a story-driven game, at least at some point, would be like a pain because it's I'm really good at criticizing things, but I'm really bad at like doing it better than they could.
Yeah. No, I do kind of get that. But I mean, I've kind of learnt, because I understand that, but I've learned over the last like year or so that like using a trope in a story isn't in of itself a bad thing. The bad thing is
how you do it.
Yeah, it's how it's done. Yeah. And I've had to like, because I was like exactly that. I was quite black and white in that like, nope, this is a fucking terrible thing because it's overdone. And it's like, well, actually, no. Well, like it depends on the context and the situation.
There are exceptions, I'd say. So the example I gave, killing off a character for shock value, I'd never see the good in that. Killing off a character for another reason.
Yeah, killing off a character when it makes thematic sense, absolutely.
Yeah, but like when it's just like, oh my god, I can't believe, oh fuck, die, shut up.
I can't believe that.
Can't believe this character we learned nothing about just died because we didn't expect it. I don't care. Or like this character's...
Matt, let's be real. Yeah. One of your favorite Japanese series has a death for shock value. Quite near the beginning.
Let's not talk about that.
Although it does also make thematic sense, so I'm kind of okay with it.
I think, actually, that's a good point. Let's not talk about it, though.
What?
Because this isn't an anime podcast.
No, this isn't. No, but it does make thematic sense. It absolutely makes thematic sense.
Yeah, and like it comes back, and then it's not really that at all.
Yeah, like all of the deaths in that particular series make thematic sense.
The anime that shall not be named.
Yeah. And then my favourite anime series has a death that makes thematic sense as well. The same death about 1 million times.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And then you could watch the Tatami Galaxy. That's actually a good anime and no one dies.
Excuse me? You saying that my favourite anime is shit?
Yeah, it's terrible. No, I love Steins Gate.
You know how to mention it.
It's technically a video game.
I suppose that's true. Yeah.
Oh yeah, so something I wanted to talk about was before we started doing the podcast, we were like, hey, so what are we going to talk about, to get this out the gate? One of the first things was like, hey, maybe we should talk about like the type of game we want to make. And that's what I was going to do originally, until I had the thought of some of my favorite games are not the kind of game I would be like, that's the kind of thing I'd want to make.
Yeah.
So I feel like experimenting with ideas is going to be a lot more interesting. So
yeah, definitely.
One of my favorite games is Brothers, A Tale of Two Sons. So, but then if you're like, hey, I want to make a game where you move a character with, an analog stick and then the other one with the other analog stick, and I want to make a game that centers around puzzles involving that, I'd be like, that sounds shit.
That sounds so boring, man.
That sounds boring, and I don't want to do it.
Yeah, like, it's one of those things that, like, you wouldn't think to do it.
Yeah,
unless it had already been done.
Idea. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm just going to say, whatever happens. We're going to have conversations in, future podcasts when it gets to that point, talking about, what do we want to do, and like what are certain aspects in game design that we like, and even aspects in storytelling, I suppose, if we choose to do something along those lines, and storyline and how gameplay can influence it and work alongside, blah, 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 blah. That's all future stuff. Right now, definitely. We need to focus on the nitty-gritty that we've been avoiding for too long.
Yeah, the actual, like,
how the fuck we actually do anything.
The coding, the 3D modeling, things like that. I mean, like, to add to that, I think that I would be okay with making, like, versions of the games I like. I briefly touched on Darkest Dungeon earlier on, and Darkest Dungeon, to me, is really good because it incorporates the best bits personally about strategies and RPGs.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like, yeah, I'd love to make that. That would be amazing. I'd love to cherry pick the bits from like all the games I like and put them all into one game. So like, but clearly you have a much less normie taste in video games. So you're taking inspiration from Brothers, which I don't think is a game many people have actually played. Like it's like kind of a bit too artsy for a lot of people. It's
really weird how most of my favorite games, or games that I played. All right, so Spec Ops is one. Spec Ops is a game that I would never describe as one of my favorite games.
No,
but is one of the games that left the biggest impression on me. And I really appreciate it and what it was doing as a game. So
I feel
really
like,
interesting.
Without spoiling Spec Ops, I feel like what Spec Ops does is actually great for storytelling.
Yeah, it's an amazing story.
I want to do but also like how the gameplay impacts with the story as well. And
I think one of the most interesting things about Spec Ops, because meta-narrative is a huge thing in games at the moment. So that there was that what is it called? That it's Pony something. That Steam game.
Pony Island?
Pony Island, that's it.
Yeah, that was really weird. I don't know why you gave that me, Matt.
It's Pony Island, and there's a Super Hot has meta narrative as well. A lot of games, it's like Undertale's
a bit. Yeah, I was going to say Undertale's a bit.
Undertale's very much that. And Undertale, I mean,
I would call
I was listing off examples I don't like.
Yeah,
Undertale's an example I do like. I feel like meta narrative is either really, really good and it's really impactful, and Spec Ops is one of them. Undertale is for entirely different reasons.
Wait, does Super Hot have a meta narrative?
Have you not played the story?
I mean, I've played the VR version, so I don't know if it's got a different story.
Played it to completion?
No.
It's about it being the whole thing. Well, not the whole thing, but like generally, it's about like, the game being. It's maybe spoiler territory, but
yeah, maybe don't spoil it for me then.
Yeah, not like it's not all in the same way. Of course, it's like a lot of the times it's elements, but a general like encompassing thing of like the game is real and it knows and has feelings.
Really?
Not with Super Hot specifically.
I was going to say that sounds shit if it was.
Those kind of narratives.
The amount of times I've punched fucking red men in the face in VR in Super Hot makes me feel sad if actually they've got feelings.
Yeah, the red man was really being hooked up to poor children So every time you punched one, there was a machine that punched a poor kid. You monster.
Well, in VR, it's amazing because you can punch like individual parts of the body and it will react accordingly. So you can like punch it like in the arse and it will like react like, oh, I just got punched in the arse and shit like that.
I just punched a kid in the arse.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm terrible, man.
But like, I feel like there's right ways and wrong ways to do things like that. You know, specific ways of telling stories that could only be told in games.
Yeah, what you call meta-narrative,
Mm-hmm.
I call ludonarrative, but that's not even the correct term for it because that's something completely different. That's where people like say, oh, ludonarrative dissonance, where like fucking you go around shooting men in the face and then like your character is actually not a horrible person, so they never would shoot men in the face. Yeah, shit like that.
Yeah.
But what I would call ludonarrative is how the actual gameplay directly ties into the story. And so that to me, although I've not played much of Undertale, is what I got from Undertale, was like how like it is, because like the fucking gameplay impacts the story in that game.
Yeah, well, I mean, what I'm referring to isn't specifically the gameplay impacting the story. It's more of like the meta narrative being that like the game is like more than it seems.
Okay,
like,
yeah, no, okay.
All right, here's an example. That game, One Shot. I don't know if you've played it or heard of it.
Nope.
It's a game that was an indie game, and originally the whole point was that you only got to play it once. And you know, if you die, that's it. You can't play it again. Obviously, there are ways to do it. Blah, blah,
I imagine
blah, blah.
I would be shit at that game.
The idea is it's not a very hard game. It's like a puzzle RPG type thing. But anyway, so a part of the meta narrative is that like so you're like a god in the game. It turns out really early, and the game uses what your username is on your computer and refers to you as it. So the first time, without inputting my name as Matt, the game's like, "Are you Matt, God?" And it's like, "Holy shit!" Like that kind of thing. Whether it's done to like a smaller extent or it's done to like a very large extent, you know, in terms of other things. I just kind of mean games. The stories that can only be told as games.
Yeah. Okay.
And that has, you know, a lot of different ways you can construe that. But I've always found that to be the interesting part of stories and games, because a big part of my problems with RPGs in general is that I'd much rather see this as a movie or read it as a book.
Yeah.
Without all the dumb, grindy shit in the middle, which I'm just doing to get to more story.
Yeah.
I'm much more interested in gameplay, or like, you know, like we were talking about, either gameplay lending itself to the story, or you know, the game is the story, I guess.
Yeah.
To an extent. That's the interesting part to me. But yeah, that got really off topic. What I was gonna say is it's really weird because all the games I've played growing up and like my biggest inspirations and whatever don't really correlate that well with what I'd consider my favorite games, because like it's Transistor and Brothers.
Yeah.
The only one that's probably up there is Sonic, but even now that Sonic Mania is out, I don't know whether my favorite Sonic game's Sonic Mania or if it's Sonic 3 and Knuckles. But anyway, so I just think that's interesting, and it's a good reason why we shouldn't just be like, yeah, I want to make this kind of game. Also because we wouldn't agree on anything but maybe a 3D platformer.
Yeah, I think that's the only thing we would agree on, so I'm kind of going to go a bit like too far for this episode, but I'm going to say it anyway.
Go.
I've always wondered, what would a second-person shooter be?
Because
I know what it is. It's a shoot.
What is it?
It's a shooter where you control a character through the eyes of another character.
Doesn't Superhot kind of do that?
Does it?
Yeah, you can switch perspectives.
No, what?
Well, actually, no, it doesn't really work. Well, like not really.
I mean, I don't really know, but like, if you're switching to so you see through someone else, like an enemy as they're charging towards you, and then you have to react whilst you're watching
not exactly
someone.
like that, because in Super Hot, once you switch to the enemy, you are them.
Yeah, then that's not what it is at all.
Yeah.
No, a second
But
person.
then, all right, but that's also it's a dumb idea.
Well, it depends. See, this is the point. Because we just had that conversation that if someone introduced you to brothers, you would say, well, that's a dumb idea.
Yeah, but all right, so what I'm imagining.
I'm not saying that it is a great idea. I'm just saying.
No, I mean, in practice, even all right, so brothers as a fundamental idea, it sounds boring, but it sounds possible. Especially a second person shooter. You're looking at the perspective of somebody running at you, but you have to aim the gun of the person that you're controlling.
Yeah.
It sounds terrible.
It doesn't have to be the enemy, though. It could be...
Oh, like a security camera. You play looking at the security footage.
Yeah, but then that almost seems really cheap, because then it might as well just be a third-person shooter, because
Or a top-down shooter.
Yeah, because then the character you're playing as is actually just...
Yeah,
the eyes you're looking through are actually just a static man.
If you're not doing it as something like the enemy, or something that's like that, then it's always just going to be this is just a different camera angle.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean,
because, Five Nights at Freddy's does that even, sort of.
Not really, because you're not actually playing as anyone.
No, but what you're looking at, I guess, is yeah, that's true. But I meant more as in
the
what
security guard thing
is through security cameras and shit.
Yeah. But it's one of those things where I feel it would be interesting to try and see if that would be possible at all.
Maybe.
If they're
that. To be honest. The thing I was talking about at the beginning, maybe an idea is so terrible we never should have done it.
Oh yeah,
maybe it's that.
But if we tried it and it turns out to be shit, at least we've tried it and at least we've realised, well, actually that's not really doable at all, is it? Yeah.
Yeah, no, I understand it from that perspective, absolutely, and that's why I think it's a good idea to you say,
experiment with ideas that we wouldn't think of otherwise. Yeah,
because maybe we'll think of the next big thing,
and then everyone will be making second-person shooters.
Oh shit, maybe if this podcast gets popular and we come up with a pretty good idea, someone will beat us to making the game. Alright, so next week, homework.
What are we going to get done by next week?
Alright, my aim is to make and possibly texture a simple model. Maybe a car, maybe a spaceship, something I don't have to rig.
A cube. A box.
A grey, textureless cube.
I mean, you could make a crate, like a Crash Bandicoot crate.
No, the idea is I'm actually modelling something, Owen.
But you could just do that as a texture around a cube.
Yeah, but the idea is that I'm making a model, not just making a texture.
Fine.
Alright, Owen, what's your homework?
Learning basic syntax of C# and the user face of Unity.
Is there anything you could probably set yourself that you'd be like, yes, now I'm done? Because that sounds like a very general thing.
A game,
because I could just say the same thing. I could say the same thing. I'm going to learn the UI of Blender.
A game in which you jump as a cube.
Ooh, can you move?
Maybe.
Just jump?
Maybe move. Maybe not jump. Maybe move. Move is more important.
No. You said jump.
Fuck.
You said it.
I'm sorry, Matt. I'm not going to have any time to do any work this week. I'm going to be too busy playing Knack 2.
Well, look at Knack. Look at how Knack jumps. And let that inspire you to make a game where you jump. Anyway, that's the homework.
All right.
You better do it or I'll laugh at you.
I mean, that is the punishment, basically. If we don't do...
Mockery.
I mean, not I don't think, not doing the homework shouldn't be laughed at.
Yes,
but
it should.
Not doing anything should be laughed at.
No, that just means you get laughed at more.
Well...
Alright, we'll have a laughometer. And however funny it is, we edit it in post to peak the audio more. So if you haven't done anything in a week, it just completely...
It might as well be white noise.
Yeah. It transcends loudness, so it's just nothing. You don't hear anything.
Little children will hear it and they'll get angry with us.
Or your dog.
All right, well, that's for next week. That's what we've got to look forward to.
Yeah, save the dog whines for next week, folks. We'll be back, hopefully with results. Owen's going to make Knack 3.